I chose Tulane's Executive MBA program as a means to gain skills in business law, management, finance, and value creation. Almost immediately after graduation, I was promoted to a Chief Judge role. Now, I am Chief Judge Tamia Gordon.
Major support for Out to Lunch is provided by the law firm of Jones Walker, established in 1937 with over 375 attorneys in offices throughout the U.S., providing a comprehensive range of services to a local, national, and international client base. JonesWalker.com. And by Shorten Associates, legal recruiters in Louisiana and Texas. And by Orange Theory Fitness, delivering fitness results for a healthier world.
From Commander's Palace Restaurant in the Garden District in New Orleans, we're out to lunch with Peter Ricchiuti. Peter Ricchiuti is Tulane University's A.B. Freeman School of Business professor and director of the award-winning Birkenroad Reports. It's business, New Orleans style.
Hi, I'm Peter Ricchiuti. Welcome to Out to Lunch. Even if you know nothing about business, if your only link to business is listening to this show, you've probably heard about the distinction between working in your business and working on your business. Working in your business is what you have to do to get it up and running. Working on your business is what you have to do to keep it running, and especially to grow it. Now, how you make that transition from starting a business to running a business is vital. It's the pathway to success, and that pathway is not always easy to find. To help you, there are a wide range of books that might be best described as self-help literature for business. There are business gurus, and there are whole companies of business consultants. All of these options offer various techniques for working on your business. Now there's a new product that pulls a lot of these threads together. It's a piece of business development software appropriately called Align. Align was founded in 2014, and so far it's been used by over 15,000 clients in 64 countries. Align is headquartered here in New Orleans under the leadership of CEO Doug Wallner. Doug, welcome to Out to Lunch.
Thank you for having me.
Bill Hines is a prime example of a person who moved from working in his business to working on his business. For 20 years, Bill worked as a corporate attorney. He specialized in transactions and financing for public and private companies, both domestically and internationally. You might have heard at the beginning of this show some information about our sponsor, the law firm Jones Walker. That announcement says Jones Walker has over 375 attorneys in offices throughout the United States. Well, the person who manages all those attorneys and most other aspects of Jones Walker's business is none other than Bill Hines. Bill started at Jones Walker in 1982. In 2006, he stopped working in the business and started working on the business as the company's managing partner. Bill, after being our major sponsor for a better part of a decade, you finally get a free lunch at Commander's. Welcome Out to Lunch.
Thank you, Peter.
Now, Doug, I recently saw an instructional video called How to Play Piano Like Dr. John. It's a recording of Dr. John himself sitting at a piano showing you how he plays various songs. This video would be really helpful if I could already play piano almost as well as Dr. John. All a regular piano player can do with this video, though, is marvel at Dr. John's talent and confirm that no matter how many times you watch it, you could never play like that. What I'm wondering is, how similar is this to a person who may not know much about business getting Align software? If this person, like our wannabe piano player, is enthusiastic but not very skilled, can Align ever make that person into a successful business owner? And if a person already has a good business sense, and if they're the business equivalent of an almost as good Dr. John, do they need someone holding their hand? What I'm getting at is, who is Align's customer?
It's a good question. Our customer is anybody who is trying to sort of scale their business. What we find actually is most of our customers who are coming to us already have some semblance of success, to be honest with you. They've gotten their company to a point where it's grown. They have a lot of people working towards their business effort, but they just don't know how to sort of wrangle it all together and sort of calm the chaos, if you will. The business might be growing too fast for them. So we find most of the people who come to us have that issue. They've had a good idea, they've got the business growing, but now they need to put some structure and process in place. So, like the piano video, you would probably want to sort of develop good habits in your business and practice these habits on a regular basis so that you can make it more innate in your company and more part of your culture. And so what we do with our software is we give you the structure and the process. And that allows you to sort of implement the good habits inside the business, and over time they develop. So whether it's habits around communication, or habits around strategic planning, or habits around taking the pulse of the organization, doing it regularly. Our software allows you to do a lot of that stuff and allows you to grow and take the chaos out of the growth.
Bill, I think most of us have the idea that there are two kinds of lawyers. There are guys who have billboards with slogans like, "One call, that's all," and "Don't take a check till you check with me." And then there's the rest of the world's attorneys. We picture them sedately in their offices waiting for someone to call. The truth is no doubt somewhere in between. You don't want 375 attorneys sitting around waiting for the phone to ring, but you need to have an understanding of more sophisticated methods of marketing than interstate billboards, which means keeping up with changes in social media and promoting businesses in places like LinkedIn. As the leader of a traditionally conservative business like a law firm, how do you deal with the change? Do you try to get ahead of it and be an innovator, or do you follow trends?
Yeah, well, Peter, I think that is actually the biggest tension. I mean, all the humorous side about the lawyers on the billboards is law as a profession versus law as a business. And I do, just try to be nice because I'm friends with some of those lawyers who have their faces on billboards. And I do think, though, they are more law as a business than as a profession. I mean, they've gone commercial. So at a place like Jones Walker, we're definitely law as a profession. But then that's a tension I have to deal with, which is you can no longer, I mean, if you have a great reputation, I guess there are a few lawyers probably in America, but even they may have made their reputation through some form of marketing, but it could have just been results. There are a few of those people like a David Bowie's or an Alan Dershowitz, but when you see them on TV, they're marketing too, but they made their name. But to most lawyers, if you just tried to sit like the old days and wait for the phone call, and a lot of it used to be family connections 40 years ago, that just doesn't happen anymore. So it has to be a fine line between maintaining the profession and business development. And we can talk more about that, but it's everything from client entertainment into jokes about meals and trips and things like that. We don't do, at least at our firm, we don't believe a lot in just sort of paid advertising in terms of, and I mean not just the billboards, but a one-shot ad in a magazine. It's become much more, one thing our chief marketing officer talks about is thought leadership. So you can even say the kind of thing we're doing today, but having our lawyers be out in a public forum, either on TV or radio or in just a speech, or now on Facebook and Instagram. And I will say some of our lawyers have a little indigestion that we have a Facebook and Instagram page at, but we do. And we use LinkedIn a lot as well. And I think it's just, it's evolving, it's a fine line. I will say more of our lawyers that are probably 50 and under totally embrace it. And I'm one of the few that's 50 and older that also totally embrace it. But a lot of our 50 pluses still think they like to do it the old way.
And I imagine that's something you run into, right? Is you bring technology into an office, and some people are all for it and some aren't. And your software, you need to kind of be all in. I mean, this isn't,
Yeah, that's true. There definitely is. The more people you have in the organization on the platform, the more data you're going to get out of it. So obviously getting full participation across your organization is pretty critical. Look, software's made its way into the workplace today, so I don't think, I think we have the typical challenges that most software companies do, but I think what's really becoming the bigger problem is not so much will they adopt technology, it's which technology will they adopt, and the fight for that customer in terms of the SaaS applications that are sitting on their desktop. So everybody's got the basics, the CRM, the project management, and what we're trying to demonstrate to our potential clients is, hey, again, I think you started out this way. It's not so much of working in your business like a finance application like QuickBooks or project management like Asana or Salesforce. Those are for working in your business on a daily basis. Our software is for working on your business, as you suggested at the beginning of this. And what we find is that a lot of companies just don't spend time doing that. And so we're trying to set ourselves apart as, hey, this is critical software for working on your business that you need to have inside your organization. And they likely don't have any software for working on their business in that organization. So from that perspective, it's a very strategic sale, but it's an important piece of software to have in that environment. And so, we're fighting for the desktop inside that enterprise as well.
You're listening to Out to Lunch. I'm Peter Raschuti. I'm talking with Doug Wallner, CEO of the business development software company Align, and Bill Hines, managing partner of the Jones Walker law firm. We'll be right back after this very brief break. You're listening to Out to Lunch. I'm Peter Raschuti. I'm talking with Doug Wallner, CEO of the business development software company Align, and Bill Hines, managing partner of the Jones Walker law firm. Bill, you brought a very different kind of business environment to this community, and a lot of people. I mean, you think about your marketing. A lot of your marketing is the things you sponsor in the community. I guess that's the successes you've had, like bringing us an NBA team and things like that. I guess that's all part of getting Jones Walker out there.
So yes, but this is in that you've really hit an interesting story about the cynicism maybe of lawyers in some ways, and maybe clients toward lawyers. I'll use the Hornets as example, and then do you really also just care about the community that can indirectly benefit your business? So. When I was chairing the effort, I do remind people to get the Grizzlies, and we failed. And so it's also, you have to remember, if we had not tried, we did not get the Grizzlies. They went to Memphis because Memphis had FedEx and we didn't. And that was only 1 year before the Hornets. So we had the exact same civic effort and team, but we failed. But the point is also, when you fail, we learned we were missing one thing. And so we actually thought we weren't going to get a second bite of the apple, but there's only been one other bite ever since then, which was the Hornets, and we got that bite when that happened. But here's the issue. When I was leading the civic effort to get the Grizzlies, the owner of the Grizzlies, I'm not going to say the lawyer's name because that wouldn't be fair to him, he and I were friendly, but the owner of the Grizzlies had been college roommates at Georgetown with a lawyer about 10 years older than me that was head of a competitor law firm in New Orleans, and had several, and wasn't even people at Jones Walker, several people in town tell me, and it tells me how people think about lawyers. Bill, I mean, you're totally wasting your time doing this, because if the team comes here, so-and-so is going to be their lawyer because of the college thing. And my law partners might have gotten mad at me, but I really looked at them and I said, this is a serious comment, Ron. They said, no, that's what everyone's saying behind your back. They feel bad for you. I said, no offense, I'm not remotely doing this for Jones Walker. I mean, I'm doing this for New Orleans because I like New Orleans and sports and all that. And my point is, we've had numerous efforts after that. We did save Avondale. People forget, I know it's gone now, but we got a $150 million package after that, and then we got the Hornets. And I did ultimately become the Hornets general counsel, so that did have a happy ending. But the point is, I told people in Houston, they think this is all a joke because there's so many businesses to go after. The problem in New Orleans is we've been dumbing down since I left here in the late 70s, where we were larger than Houston, Atlanta, just barely, but we've been contracting, so everyone is fighting over the same fish. And I said, I don't mean this just to be, just a nice guy, but if we had 1,000 more fish, all the different law firms here would prosper. Now, the bad news is if we had a lot more fish, the big national firms would come in like they have in Houston, but they're not going to come to New Orleans because they don't have enough fish yet. But so it's not just altruistic, but it's like the city needs to think bigger, which is if you had a bigger business community, it affects philanthropy and that sort of thing. It's the same set of banks and law firms that are asked for money for United Way and Unity and all that. And I keep telling them they need to attract more business here to help philanthropy.
We talked about a business that came here yourself. Doug, what about when you're here, you're doing well, what is it you don't have here? Like there are skill sets that are you still having trouble filling?
Yeah, we do have skill sets that we're looking for that aren't uniquely here or aren't indigenous to this market. I think especially in the SaaS space, there hasn't been a huge SaaS, software as a service, SaaS stands for software as a service, technology base here. And I think just having people who sold that kind of software before, or people who've made that kind of software before, it's new, and it's probably within the last 7 or 8 years that we've even had companies doing that here. So finding the talent who really understands how to sell that or how to develop that software, it's been hard. I think we've made good inroads on the development side, and I think that market is getting better and better. We're finding talent here, and it is also easier to hire talent in other places that work remotely. Obviously, we want the jobs here, and that's the goal. But we have to do what we have to do as a company to get started. We're here, but finding people who know how to sell SaaS software has been kind of hard in this market.
Is that kind of a unicorn, a person that would understand the technology and be a
Yeah, it's a
salesperson?
little different how you sell it, and just going. It's a little different process how you sell it. A lot of inside sales, phone sales, a lot of content marketing, and sort of going through what we call the top of funnel marketing, whittle it down to getting the final sales call. So that whole process and how to interact with that process as a salesperson is unique. And I think it's not your traditional enterprise sales or enterprise software sales process. So we'll try to train anybody to do it, but finding that talent here has been hard.
Peter, I can add one thing to that, just because I'm obviously not in the technology business, but more on the economic development side. So when Stephen Moray was Secretary of Economic Development under Governor Jindal, if you talk to Michael Hecht and others, and my children are in their late 20s and 30s, to his point, the next harder part, which I've never really thought about, is, of course, now we have this problem too because we've lost so many energy jobs to Texas. But one of the reasons it was easy to attract people that were in their 20s, 30s, and 40s in the energy industry in the 70s and 80s here is, and I just never thought this way, is they always say, well, what if I get fired or want to quit but want to stay in the city? There's 10 other energy companies I can go to. What I'm told is of that age group, and by the Hecht and Morays, is if I'm coming to your company, and I'm talking to people at Turbo Squid, at Lucid, those places, the pushback they get is, I know it's going to work out great, but let's just say you don't like me or I don't like you. If I'm in Dallas or somewhere, there's 10 other companies I can go to. In New Orleans, and my first choice is New Orleans, but if I don't stick with you, I have nowhere else to go. And now, once you state that, though, you can just give up. I mean, to me, the answer is no. You just have to keep growing it to scale to have more of that. But that is the next step, is having more of these companies sort of horizontally, so that if you and that person do have a falling out, they can get another job somewhere.
Yeah, and that potential employee, I guess what you're thinking through is they've brought their family here and they don't want to uproot again. That is...
Yeah, we're making progress on that, and I think the market's gotten better for a company like us to have that talent around. We just need a little bit more. We're growing it, and we have some of the bigger tech companies that the economic development groups have brought into the city have. I look at that as a positive for the city, and people say, well, aren't you scared they'll take your talent? I said, no, they'll probably give us that talent because they're going to spend a lot of dollars recruiting people. The reality is that they'll get their training at those organizations, and then they can move lateral to ours. So I think that's really great for our market, and it is creating more talent overall in the New Orleans market.
You're listening to Out to Lunch. I'm Peter Raschuti. I'm talking with Bill Hines, managing partner of Jones Walker Law Firm, and Doug Wallner, CEO of business development software company Align. Bill and Doug, this is the part of the show we call the interview. You're both dealing constantly with employees. When you hire someone, no matter how sophisticated your HR department is, at the end of the day, the decision about whether someone is a good fit for you and your company comes down to a conversation. Lately, there's been an interesting trend in the hiring conversation. It consists of asking people questions that go beyond the resume and test someone's ability to think through a problem. I have a list of 16 of these probing interview questions in front of me. I'm going to ask you each to pick a number between 1 and 16. I'll ask you the question, and I want you to tell me how you'd answer it. Who wants to go first?
I'll go.
I'm
the lawyer. I'll go.
Oh, there's good.
I'll pick unlucky 13.
Unlucky 13. Oh my, Bill. No. If you were on an island that can only bring 3 things, what would you bring?
And it's a deserted island. That's the trick, I see.
I think. Well, there's not like
the
Martha's
lawyer,
Vineyard or something.
because you get a boring answer. I guess I'd bring as much food as possible, as much water as possible. And on the third item, I'd want a TV that has some sort of satellite connection, and then I'd generally be happy.
That would be enough. That's a base for you.
Liquor would be a fourth. You can put that in the food or drink products, and then I'd be happy.
Only in New Orleans would that go.
I want to see, do they have personality, leadership skills? I would look down for class presidents, team captains, head of different civic or charitable things. But a lot of the lawyers really disagree with me. All they cared about, so for example, I'm not going to hire number 50 in the class, but a firm like ours, I might hire number 10 over number 1. And nothing wrong with number 1, but they're a genius, but there's just no personality. And number 10 is smart enough, but has all the personality traits, and they frankly end up being the more successful lawyers.
The firm has grown so much since you came on. It's almost twice the size it was. A lot of that has been not through these little interview process, but M&A. So that's become a big part of what you do, I guess, because you're in so many different cities.
Yeah, and I think about that too, because I was an M&A and finance lawyer, so people say you don't practice law anymore. In a weird way, I'm also what you're not supposed to be. I'm my own lawyer and client. It's like a doctor should not practice medicine on himself. But the reason I bring that up is it would be interesting because whoever comes after me someday, and I know at other law firms, that managing partner is a litigator. And I do wonder, I'm sure a litigator can manage people, but when I go to look at acquiring a law firm, and very often their managing partner on the other side is a litigator, I can just tell they're like a deer in the headlights, and so you don't want to be arrogant about it, but you can say, well, here's how this is going to go. And I show them kind of, this is the process, and it kind of makes them nervous. And I just wonder, like, if you would not want to send me to court. It just, but I don't know what I'm doing there. And so it has been an advantage from a growth standpoint is that I've done deals for big public and private companies, and so when you're acquiring a law firm, and it's not just the paperwork, it's knowing, I might say, how to socialize and woo them over a period of times, because most of them sort of want to be bought, but then sort of maybe would rather not be bought, and it takes a few meetings just to get them comfortable.
What do you look for, by the way, in that? Do you look for just the book of business they're going to bring in, or is it a cultural fit? Or
It's for me, yeah, book of business is going to fit with whatever it is, but the two things we'd be looking for would be, number one, specialization, like we're trying to grow energy, healthcare, banking, financial services. So right now it's like a lot more of our technology practice. So it's that, and then number two, that's still the main driver, but number two is geography for us. We have gotten, we're now, I guess, in 8 or 9 states and 17 offices, so it's geography. But again, what blows lawyers' minds is we almost hired some lawyers, and we ended up not hiring them in energy because that has been our kind of bread and butter for years. But they would have been in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and in some other town in Ohio. And probably luckily for me, that deal died just in terms of the board at their firm was like, you gotta be kidding me. And I said, no, because we're primarily about industry sectors, and that's energy fracking in those areas, and it fits. It's all the fracking and all that. But that was going to be a mind bender for them. They were much more comfortable if it was in Texas or somewhere like that. But so down in technology, obviously that could mean I have several southern firms we'd like to do that have opened small offices in San Francisco, which could come for us someday, because of their technology practice. But so, so I'd say it's but just not just what I don't want to do is, I know some other firms, I won't name them, some are New Orleans, they keep just getting bigger, size for size sake. It doesn't seem there's a plan. They just get bigger to get bigger. And that actually, I think, can ultimately blow a firm up culturally.
That's why they need your software.
Well, that was going to be my question.
We have a deal here we're going to start.
So how much planning do you do in terms of strategic planning, and do you do that annually? And
Yeah. So we do a true committee and a strategic plan every 5 years. So that a hardcore that has to get adopted by the board and all that. And then we're supposed to, and I think the same thing, we're getting better at it, we're supposed to evaluate it annually, and I'm supposed to lead that effort, because it needs tweaking. If this was a good idea, but it didn't work, and this one's working, or double down. So we're right now in year 2 of our latest strategic plan, and I think, we keep fine-tuning it. And some of it can be industry changes. I know Peter follows this a lot, which is, the energy sector, and I certainly hope it comes back robustly at some point, but we're not just sitting around, and we kind of have that covered, but we're doubling down a lot more into technology. I spent 2 hours yesterday with a biotech group, so life sciences in New Orleans, and they knew of me and stringing it up with Civically, so I brought a couple of our younger lawyers with us that are practicing in the area they want, which is more IP. And I think that went well. But our energy lawyers or our maritime lawyers just wouldn't have understood anything being discussed with the life sciences crowd.
All right. Now, Doug, I know you've had some time to think about this now on this
well, that's right. He's got his
1 through 16 number. Which one are you going to go
I'm going to go
with?
for number 6.
Number 6. Good. Yeah. All right. I'm sure you've thought about this a lot. Why are manhole covers round?
Wow, how do I answer that question? I guess they're round because if you think about it, they can't fall, the lid cannot fall within the hole. So that's technically the reason that they're round, I think, is the right answer, right?
We had an engineer, and that's supposedly the right answer.
Yeah,
That's
so
a great engineering. That's an engineering answer.
That is great. No wonder you're doing so well. There's what would if
that's kind of a cognitive question, right? I mean, so you'd say, hey, does the person have good cognitive skills if they answer it correctly? I do in our hiring practice. I look for smart people. I happen to be, my past has been I've run an assessment business, and we did both. We did pre-employment assessment, so this is sort of right up my alley. But we looked for, we would advise our clients to look for smart people, but it is also about personality. So we would have soft skills as well.
we can define smart in a lot of different ways, right? I mean,
Yeah,
that
we
would be-
do. But smart is smart, and there's a reason that's hiring smart people will get you far, and that is because you can. They have a high capacity for learning, and they have a high capacity to learn what you're trying to get them into in your business, and so you will succeed better with smart people, but you also have to have the personality and the soft skills, because you could be really smart, but if you can't talk to anybody inside the organization and communicate, you're going to have a real problem. So the soft skills are truly important.
When you watch a movie, all you care about are the 2 or 3 main characters on the screen. Then when the movie's over and the credits roll, you discover the names of hundreds of people who actually made the movie. It's similar in business. For every successful company, there's a small army of ancillary support in the form of lawyers, advisors, and consultants. Bill and Doug, you both work in the background, often without getting any credit for all your many contributions to the success of local, national, and international businesses. I'm glad we could drag you into the spotlight for 30 minutes, and thank you both for taking the time to join me today on Out to Lunch.
Thanks, Peter.
Thank you.
And Bill, I would be remiss if I didn't take this opportunity to thank you and Jones Walker for being staunch supporters of all kinds of cultural, nonprofit, and business ventures in New Orleans, not the least of which is this show. So from everyone who works on Out to Lunch and who benefits from listening to it, thank you.
Thanks, Peter.
My guests in Out to Lunch today have been Bill Hines, managing partner of Jones Walker Law Firm, and Doug Wollner, CEO of Align Technology Corporation. You can find out more about Jones Walker and Align by following the links on our website, itsneworleans.com. The producer of our show is Grant Morris, our technical producer is Eric Merle, and our researcher is Maggie Mendel. You can listen to the show and find past episodes of Out to Lunch wherever you get podcasts, and you can find all of our podcasts at itsneworleans.com. If you want to know what we look like, you can find photos from the show on itsneworleans.com, on It's New Orleans Out to Lunch Facebook page, and on Instagram. The photos today were taken by Jill LaFleur. You can find more of Jill's photos at lafleurphoto.com. Out to Lunch is a production of INO Broadcasting for itsneworleans.com and WWNO 89.9 FM. I'm Peter Raschuti. Thanks for joining me. I look forward to meeting you again next week around the table here at Commander's Palace for more business, New Orleans style, on Out to Lunch.
Out to Lunch is recorded live over lunch at Commander's Palace in New Orleans. Commander's Palace serves lunch Monday to Friday, jazz brunch on Saturday and Sunday with live music, and dinner 7 nights a week. Mitchell Foreman wrote and performs all the music on Out to Lunch. You can hear Mitchell's music anywhere great jazz is sold or streamed, and at mitchellforeman.com. Major support for Out to Lunch is provided by the law firm of Jones Walker, established in 1937 with over 375 attorneys in offices throughout the U.S., providing a comprehensive range of services to a local, national, and international client base. JonesWalker.com. And by Short & Associates, legal recruiters in Louisiana and Texas. And by Basics Swim and Gym and Basics Underneath Fine Lingerie, the It's New Orleans Happy Hour podcast. And by Orange Theory Fitness, delivering fitness results for a healthier world.